for another episode of Will Work for Patients, a free advice podcast dedicated to help chiropractors get on purpose and grow their practices. Get ready to tune in and turn up the volume of your practice marketing. And now, turning up the volume on his mic, big-time chiropractic advocate and your host, here is Frank Sardella.
All right, here we go again. We've got another action-packed episode on tap here. I'm so excited. Well, thank you, Michelle, and welcome everyone to Will Work for Patients. I'm Frank Sardella, and I'm so happy to be here with you again today in our podcast show. This show is free for you to not only give you marketing help in your practice, but to keep you on purpose, keep you pumped up, and keep you going. And that's my commitment in my grassroots effort to make a chiropractic world. So welcome. I'm so glad you're back. Well, do we have quite an episode planned here for you today? Let me tell you. I mean, quite an episode. I really do truly know that I always say that, but I always sort of try to outdo myself. And I really think we have something here that you're going to like. I'm going to open your eyes today to some hot spots where ideal patients are hanging out right now. Places you probably never thought to look, or that you could look for that matter. How's that for an attention grabber? Did it get your attention? I thought so. I'm basically going to share these general type places with you, types of places I've been in within these categories. And these are categories where we've done very well in the past, very well indeed. And remember, I want to just get you that one new patient a day or more, as we talked about in episode 3. Okay? All right. So how have you been since the last episode? I have been pretty busy, and I had a little delay in between recording sessions here. I took a little break this weekend to do some on-site coaching. One of my clients, every single year, they have this huge home show that they do that they've counted upon for every year since I've been in this business, and this is close to 2 decades now, and I know it's beyond that, probably going on 3 decades for them. And I'll be posting a couple of pictures of that. Actually, they're probably already on our Twitter page and our Facebook page for Screening Experts, and also Will Work for Patients. I love these home shows. I have to tell you, it's a really great opportunity to get out there and talk to people, and I love to get out of the virtual conference room and the recording studio occasionally and out into the real world and talk to some real face-to-face people. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure you probably know what I mean. Not to mention, Saturday had sunshine and 75 degrees after a solid 2-month stretch of absolute brutal cold weather we've been having here in the Northeast, particularly here in New York. So we've just been pounded, and I was just so happy to just absorb that weather, go to that home show, talk to some people, extrovert a little bit, and here we are again. Hey, and we should also call this a late night episode because one of the things you never realize is when I broadcast. I don't usually cover it, but it's normally early in the morning that I like to do my broadcast. And, well, thanks to a 3-hour technical support call with Microsoft today, well, suffice to say, I refuse to say can't do an episode. I had one planned here for you today, and I'm here for the long haul. So here we are past 11 p.m. It's almost 11:30 at night. But you know what? I love it, and I think you know that. You can probably hear it in my voice. And I just love doing this. So, well, good. Well, here's the part where I acknowledge you for listening and subscribing and downloading. Here's where I tell you that the last episode surpassed in downloads the prior one, which was the record. And I'm very happy about that. The last episode was about hiring chiropractic marketing assistants. Here's where I say I'm so happy and I'm having so much fun, but also that you guys just ate up that one about CMAs. And I knew that that was a hot one. So thanks again. Please share this with others. I know you do have friends. I know you keep in touch. So please get them subscribing. We want this thing to go viral, worldwide, grassroots, right? Okay. And please send requests, stories, and feedback to me. I'd love to get them. I love seeing the feedback. I'm still getting feedback from you. frank.screenings@live.com. Today's episode, new patient hotspots, how to tap into them. Okay, 10 new patient hotspot categories could be the subtitle. I'm going to go over 10 of them with you today, and I think you're going to really enjoy this one a lot. And now that you're in the spirit of getting volume patients in your office, okay, and you'll need to delegate if you haven't done that already, as we talked about in the last episode. You're going to need some quality places to send them. If you're going to invest in them, you're going to want to know that they're going to places where they're absolutely going to clean up. And when I say clean up, I mean get patients that are going to please you. And I'm very specific in my coaching about where and how to procure your events, especially with regard to procedure, but that doesn't mean you can't be successful with what we're going to cover today. And before you can apply any of these specifics that I'm talking about, that I go over with my clients, these are the actual basics that I'm going to talk about today that I give every client before getting into procedure. Okay, because no one is going anywhere without this type of knowledge. And I'm going to impart that to you today. How does that sound? Good, yes? All right. There's so much ground to cover, right, as usual. So what do you say we get this train rolling? All right. Now, before I tell you the various points today's episode is going to cover, you need to know what it won't be covering, okay? For instance, today's episode is not about what to do once you get to the venue, okay? And it's not about the specifics on how to get into that venue. And it's not even about you getting signups at the venue. No, it's not about any of that, okay? Now, before you hit stop and try to click on another episode and say, let me see what else I can find here, stick with me here for a minute, will you? I promise you that you're going to get something you can really use, and you know I always have an angle for you, okay? And I'm really excited to get this to you, and you're going to like this. So let's start this way. Absorb this point for a minute. What do I mean by a new patient hotspot? What do I mean? Well, a new patient hotspot, to be hot at all, would mean it's a place where you would find what you would consider to be an ideal patient. What's ideal? How about whatever you would consider, let's say, qualified for care? And while we could detail all of that, what qualified for care means, let's leave it at that. Suffice to say, you have an idea of what qualified is, okay? So with that in mind, what you actually need to know fundamentally before embracing any method or program for filling your marketing events or even your advertising calendar is, where do larger quantities of patients hang out? And that is the topic of today's episode. How about that? Okay, new patient hotspots. Let's dig in. So what are we going to talk about? So we're going to cover 10, count them, 10 categories of places, with a few examples and maybe even an anecdote or two from the road. You know I'm always good for that. That is, from my experience, my crew's experience, in doing events, colleagues, clients, everything, okay? I usually try to put a little bit of that into every episode. We're also going to explore a little bit about why some marketing programs work in some places and why some don't. Did you ever notice that? You're trying to apply a program that you bought or whatever, and you're thinking to yourself, you're like, this seems really smart, but it's not working in my area and maybe regionally. So I'm going to discuss that a little bit because I think it's very important. And you're going to find out why I picked 10 and let's say not 5. And truthfully, out of any of these, you could live off of any one of them. So why 10? And we're going to cover that. And you'll find out how to decipher which ones are best within the resources you have and how to assess a venue's like a value to you. And I'm even going to squeeze in somehow, giving you a magic formula for predicting, let's say, a worst-case scenario type results from an event at a so-called hotspot. So you can judge, let's say, whether to go there in the first place. And of course, finally, and you know I won't forget this, I can't let you down, you're going to get another pretty cool top 10 list that, well, let's say it won't seem like it ties in for the moment, but it'll fall into place very quickly. And I really do need to squeeze a lot in here. So what have I gotten myself into? I don't know how I'm going to get all this into 30 minutes, but we're going to squeeze it in. So here we go. Let's get right down to the top 10 list. Your top 10 list today is top 10 annoying screening prospect excuses reported by docs that we hear from, okay? And again, I'm going to go rapid fire through the bottom of the list to get to the top because the top has the really juicy ones. Number 10 is, I just do exercises and I can handle it myself. Have you ever had this guy at the screening? He's just so smart on the exercises he's doing, and he's telling you he just handles it himself. Okay? So, pretty simple. Number 9, I'm getting massages. Okay, now this isn't an insult to massage therapists out there, but most people who say they're getting massages are using massages like relief care. Suffice to say, I don't need to get into that with you either. I'm sure you've heard this a million times. Number 8, the person starts work before you open. They work until way after you close, and they never take lunch. This guy works 7 days a week, and no matter what you throw out at him, he throws back why he can't be there on that day. And you could go out a whole month, and then he'll say, it'll be June, and he'll say, yeah, I think I could come in on September 18th. Do you have anything then? We like to laugh about this guy. I've done a lot of screenings, and believe it or not, I've probably seen that one way more than you would even think. Okay, number 7, I'm too busy with work. They're just entirely too busy. They just tell you how busy they are. I'm busy, busy, busy. And this is more of the side that the person doesn't want to take the time because they're really into being busy. Okay. Number 6, I have to check my insurance. Well, we love that one. We have all kinds of ways of handling it, but we got to love that one. Number 5, okay, I have to check with my doctor first. Ooh. Don't you just love that one? That one sends chills up my spine when they say that, okay? But I don't really get that one anymore too much just because of the venue types that, I've been choosing and so on. Number 4, I'm going out of town. Isn't that a popular one? They're going out of town. They're always going out of town for 2 weeks. And, God, if these guys only had any idea how they look to you, because you've heard it so many times, they really think they're being original. It's kind of like when the cop pulls you over and you give them the excuse that, oh, you really had to go to the bathroom and you were trying to get to the next exit or whatever. Do you know how many times a cop has heard that excuse? If you just be honest with the guy, he'd probably let you out of the ticket, and he probably gives you a ticket just for lying to him. I'm going out of town is a great one. 3, is there anything I can do on my own? Now, I'm probably going to entitle an entire episode on that, because is there anything I can do on my own is a death trap of a screening or any type of public event, even especially in a lecture. It's contagious in a lecture. So we're not going to get into that now, but that's one of my favorites, and it's a trap that doctors fall into. We cover this extensively with our clients because they're constantly, even when we warn them about it, they're still falling into this trap. So, and then 2 would be, and I have to emphasize this in just the right way, can I call you? Right? So they want to know if they can call you, and they don't realize that we know that just means they're not ever going to call us, right? And then number 1, the top number 1 annoying screening prospect excuses reported by you chiropractors: I have to check my schedule. Okay? And I put this as the funniest one and at the top of the list because it's most of the people who give you this excuse are some of the least important people. Let me rephrase. I don't want to say least important people, okay? Everybody's important, but I just mean they're not a CEO of a company, and some CEOs have way more time in their schedule than this person. And this person is probably somebody who probably has the most routine schedule in the world, and they have to check their schedule. Like they work 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, and they have to check their schedule, right? Okay. So there's your top 10 list. Why am I using this specific top 10 list on a talk on new patient hotspots? Isn't it obvious? Have you figured it out? Yes, these are ways of balking at your offer, but what they actually are is they're a symptom that you're not in a new patient hotspot. Okay? New patient hotspots have lots of people who are qualified, so this is a symptom that you're not in one of those spots. Now, this doesn't mean that you won't get these in hotspots, like these objections and different things like that. But there is a much higher concentration of, let's say, better closes in hotspots. Okay? So let's list these top 10 new patient hotspots. Okay? There are 10 of them. And where are they and why are they classified this way? Okay? So first of all, ask yourself the question again before we get into them. Okay? Where would my ideal patients hang out? Like, just ask yourself that question and keep that in mind when I go through these. Okay, so let's just go down the list. Number 1, where corporate people eat lunch. Okay, I am gonna tell you one venue that's been fabulous. We used to do with a client where we used to represent years ago. We would go into Whole Foods. He had us hooked up on a gig for twice a month, every single month. We would go every other Tuesday, and we would set up between, let's say, 11 and 3 in the front of the store where they have all the seating for, people to eat lunch, and it was in a highly corporate area. So all these corporate dudes and gals, right? They would come down for lunch to Whole Foods to get a really good, yummy lunch, and they would sit there, and we would set up right by the door, and we would just clean up. Okay, ultra super qualified, best insurance, all this kind of stuff. Great venue. So where do corporate people eat lunch? You want to go where corporate people hang out. And again, let's suffice to say, we all know that corporate people tend to be the most qualified. So where do they eat lunch? Figure it out, and then add that to your list of venues. Number 2, where people get their afternoon crash, or let's say after people get their afternoon crash, where they get their afternoon fix. What's the first word that comes to your mind? Was it Starbucks? It was in my mind, and this is another example. Okay, I always boast about I've done screenings everywhere. Okay, one of the things my clients always like hearing from me is that this is a popular one that I tell them that I've done a screening in an IHOP on Thanksgiving weekend. Okay, I have been to the most bizarre places, gas stations, and you name it, I've been there. Okay, but where do people get their afternoon crash? Starbucks. I did a screening in a Starbucks. I did a few screenings in Starbucks, actually. And actually, first of all, it was a lot of fun. I love Starbucks. I'm not here to endorse them, but I do drink their coffee. And, the owner knew the practice owner, and they hooked it up, and it doesn't matter how we hooked up getting in there, we got in there. And I think I was there with a SAM unit and just doing, posture screenings and stuff like that. And I was getting free drinks all day, drinks on the house, and talking to the clientele. And anyway, where do they go for their afternoon fix? When is the afternoon fix? It's at about 1:45 p.m. You go sit in Starbucks, and it'll go from dead after the lunch crowd all the way to like a line out the door in some locations. It's like you can set your watch to that roller coaster people are on that you're always consulting them about in your practices. Number 3, where business groups meet. Now here's an interesting thing. I got a patient one time. I was sitting with my iPad, and I have a posture app on it that I use, and I was actually playing around with it one day, and there was a BNI meeting happening at Panera Bread. If you've ever been to Panera Bread, if you're in an area of the country or the world where you don't know what it is, go to panera.com, Panera. I'm not endorsing them, however, it's a popular meeting spot, and there are very many places like that. And I tell you to go to their website to see if you don't have that in your area, maybe have something similar. Right? But they have this big community table in the middle, and all these business people are meeting there. And after the meeting, I actually got to talk to a couple of them. Okay? And this is an excellent opportunity for you to actually do like an impromptu little thing, like refer somebody to your practice or get into a little interview situation with them or whatever. Again, I'm not here to teach you methodology. I'm just here to open your eyes to what's right under your nose as far as places that you should start targeting and figuring out how the heck am I going to get in there. Okay. Number 4, where shift changes happen. Okay, this is an interesting one. I had a client in New York City, and again, regionally these are going to vary, but this client in New York City, there was a very popular name brand delivery service that runs 3 shifts, and they have a shift change at 7 o'clock in the morning. Okay, and there's just, it's a city street, so there's a sidewalk, and you have an employee entrance, and then you have the entrance where all the trucks come in, and the shift change happens like clockwork. About 6:45, all the trucks start coming in, and the one shift comes off and one shift is going on. So you got people coming in the employee entrance, people coming out. I set up a posture analysis machine outside of the entrance one day. I brought an assistant with me, and we had a table out there. We had already previously made friends with a couple of the people there. We set it up to do it right on the sidewalk, and within, I think, an hour and a half, we had, 20 or 25 people signed up to go to that particular chiropractor who was only a few blocks away. I really started to think about that. I'm like, wow, there's probably a lot of companies that aren't just delivery services, but maybe, who knows, all kinds of types of things like that. If you're in an area where you could just go somewhere and sort of set up, that's a really good type of thing to do, and it can be really productive. So where shift changes happen. Number 5, where corporate people walk around. I have actually set up on street corners or walked around a block multiple times where people hang around with some sort of offer, some sort of survey, like all different kinds of things we've done. Again, I'm not going to get into the what to do. It's just where to go and where those people hang out. You want to pick a block where you know, like maybe at, let's say, lunchtime, right? The corporate people are hanging out on a plaza somewhere or some public place that you know you're going to see a lot of them, and you could actually go there and do something. Okay, of course, within the parameters of the rules of the game and law and all that great kind of stuff. So where corporate people walk around. Number 6, where corporate people commute. Okay, how about the train station? There's commuters just hanging out there every day, particularly in the warmer weather. Whatever. There's a lot of things that you can do, a lot of programs you can do. I don't care if you go there to hand out flyers and start conversations based on the flyers. You could do that. How about where people are sitting and waiting for something? Okay, I'm giving you the example of like the DMV. Okay, now I'm not telling you to go into the DMV to look for patients or try to organize it with the DMV, but who knows? Maybe you have a friend who works for the DMV. But what I'm saying is, where are there large quantities of people sitting, waiting, whatever? Okay, how about in the optometrist in Walmart? That place is always like a lot of space over there, whatever. Maybe you go over there and do something with them or whatever. Just start thinking with that. Where do people sort of click together, right? Okay, where people buy office supplies. You got Staples, Office Depot, all these places, WB Mason. Well, they're a delivery service, but still. Start thinking with that. Like these people that you're looking for, what do they buy? Where do they go? Right? You got to start opening your mind and say, where am I going to find these people? Where do they buy office supplies? How about number 9, where they buy in bulk? Costco, Sam's Club, BJ's, any of these wholesale clubs, right? And number 10 on the list, where corporate people work out. Here's something I want you to consider for a moment. 2 of the categories we handle in our coaching are corporate, and we handle fitness and health club type scenarios, okay? And where corporate people work out, this is interesting. Health clubs go after corporations just like you do, okay? And sometimes they're a lot more successful than you are. So instead of maybe trying to milk the gym dry of some patients, you might want to think about forming an alliance with a gym and feeding off of their corporate contacts, which can be much more profitable, I'm sure, especially if you have a person sitting in front of you. Having a gym person sitting in front of you and having a corporate person sitting in front of you, and I ask you to make a choice, which one do you want? It's a no-brainer, right? So where corporate people work out. Now, why does some things work in some areas and in some areas they don't? Why did I do 10 instead of 5 when 1 to 2 of these, let's say, would do just fine? Well, there's a formula that I want to tell you about in a moment, but suffice to say that, if you're in a really urban area or suburban area or rural area, do you see? By comparison, you're not going to set up on the sidewalk in a rural area, or on the side of a highway might be the employee entrance to some place. Do you see? There's a lot of different types of things that will work in different types of places, right? But there might be an employee entrance where you can get permission to set up. And maybe you could talk to the owner of the place or the manager of the place or whatever, and it's in a parking lot and you get to set up on a parking lot. There's all kinds of things you can do, okay? I don't want to get into methodologies and whatever. I just want you to think with these 10 topics and say, where can I actually, fit my office locale into this scenario? That's what I want you to look at. Now, I promised you a formula for figuring it out, so let me give you that quick. You need to first calculate your case dollar average. That is, you add up the amount of visits, the average patient stays, and multiply it times the average dollar amount you collect per visit, and that's your case average. Okay? Let's say that's $1,500. What you want to do is you would like to ideally make back 5 times the amount that you spend out. Now, that's just an arbitrary figure I'm figuring out because I like to just set the bar, right? And say, okay, I want minimum 5 times what I'm putting out. So I want you to do that. Now, all you have to do is really say, okay, look at the venue, look at the opportunity to meet. How many people could I actually see there? Not necessarily close, but I want you to think, how many people will I actually see with my eyes? Okay? And then all you're going to do is say, okay, based on that number, now you go, how many new patients do I need to get out of it to make 5x what I spent out? Well, if you spent none, then you only need 1 new patient. But let's just say you needed 2 new patients. So for 2 new patients, let's figure the low balliest amount. Let's just figure you're going to do 50%, okay? And I know you're going to do better than this, but let's do 50% and say, okay, that means I need to have 4 people show up in the office. And then after 4 people show in the office, for that to happen, what you need is 8 appointments. And to get 8 appointments, you need to screen 16 people. And once you screen 16, to be able to screen 16 people, you actually need to get 32 people to fill out the survey. And to get 32 people to participate, you need to say hello to 64 people. Now look at the venue and say, can I say hello to at least 64 people here? And you've got your answer as to how valuable that venue is. Okay, so that's a quick and dirty method. You just keep multiplying times 2. Start with your new patients and then say how many arrivals, how many appointments, how many screenings, how many surveys, how many hellos. And that's it. Okay, now let's recap. Here are 10 venue types into which you can classify your events. You can use these categories to organize and rate the types of events that you're going after, that you're doing, or that you're thinking of doing in the near or distant future. Okay, and they're going to help you get closer to the types of patients you want in the volume you want, and actually the volume you deserve, and you really do too. Okay, now you know them. And I hope you've gotten a few ideas that you can immediately implement after this episode. All right? So please write me and let me know. And now you not only have enough so that you can, lean toward ones that work in your specific area, but you also have a formula on how you can measure whether they're worth it in the first place. Okay? One caution though, don't turn down basically any events in the beginning. Fill your calendar with lots of events. Keep the solid ones and just gradually shave off the not so solid ones, okay? And you'll thank me later, I promise. Now, the last word. Who gets the last word? I do. After all, it's my show. And what should we take away from today's podcast? If anything, I sincerely hope that I've given you a new perspective on this category. And while I've stayed very general and not given a step-by-step procedure, I've given you something way more basic and fundamental. It's a measuring stick for event venues and something with which you can make sure to minimize wasted efforts on marketing. And that's the point of this whole thing. So my wish for you is to boom your practice, and may you thrive to your heart's content and to the level needed by your community. Sorry for the little bit of mushy sentiment, but I'm feeling a little bit of sentimental emotion in this late hour. The next episode, well, the list is getting too long. I've been calling up some of my industry homies, and I've got some real special guests lined up. So I know I keep talking about it, but please have patience. We're really moving on it. Some episodes are going to be released soon. One interesting topic coming up is on lunch and learns and other types of talks and man, is that going to be quite an episode. That's not something I say every day, is it? All right, so we're running out of time here. Please continue to listen, subscribe, and download. You'll find us, links to us on screeningexperts.com. Please like us on Facebook, Google+. You'll find us on Twitter. We're on all of them, okay? Those links are on our website, but Twitter is WW4P Podcast, and Facebook.com/willworkforpatients. Please write to frank.screenings@live.com. Okay? And refer others to listen. That's really, we want this grassroots effort. We want it to go viral. Okay? Is that a deal? Is that fair? Is that too much to ask? I don't think so. All right. So, my friends, we've come to the end of another great show. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm ecstatic you were here to join me, and we'll see you soon for yet another fun-filled episode of Will Work for Patients. So long.
Be sure to subscribe and share. Will Work for Patients has been brought to you courtesy of Screening Experts, bringing unscripted simplicity to chiropractic marketing complexity. Today's episode, copyright Screening Experts LLC, musical score composed and arranged by Frank Sardella ASCAP. For more information, visit screeningexperts.com.